Okay, so I want to welcome Coach Etienne to our common ground conversation on our benches here at Discovery High School. We are still living through the remnants, hopefully the remnants of COVID-19. We set up with our masks on.
Right.
If you're okay with it, for
I
the purpose of this conversation, let's take our masks off.
I'm cool with it. We've got social distance, so I think we're safe.
Good. Well, again, thanks for taking the time to sit and have a conversation with us.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have had a bunch of conversations over recent years just
Right.
about the development of track and field and cross country athletes
Right.
here in the state of Georgia.
Right.
Why don't we start out, if you don't mind, by you giving us a little bit of your background as a coach and educator, and maybe before that as an athlete yourself.
Okay. Well, shoot. I run cross country and track and field. Majority of my interest in running really started with just track. With track, I played football in high school, did cross country my senior year as practice meets. Realized for me to get a scholarship at Alabama State, they wanted me to do cross country. So I signed on because I wanted to leave Charlotte High and be able to move on and further my career as a runner and as a Black man, furthering my education, which was needed for me as a Haitian American. My parents are from Haiti, so education was everything. Just the thing that we all know about in America, you get an opportunity to come to a country as an immigrant. You want your family to be able to progress and live a better life, the American dream.
You do any running yourself these days?
Yeah, I run and walk. I run and walk. As a matter of fact, it's funny. Some of my friends, we have this group chat where it's called our group name 215 Runners, and making sure that we're posting our mileage and see what we're doing, hitting the weight room and all. I'm a little slacking lately because I'm in coaching mode, so I'm not getting as much as I want to. So when I'm running at a race, chasing my runners, I get a lot of cardio right there.
Got it. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
However you fit it in.
Yeah.
So as we start out this conversation on what we call common ground, and I like to say the following: Atlanta Track Club is a nonprofit. We've been around for 55 years. We're apolitical. We're nonpartisan, and we stay out of conversations that are not related to our mission. Our mission is to impact health and wellness.
Right.
Then 2020 happened. Ahmaud Arbery was killed this spring, actually late winter, let's say.
Yeah.
But the news of his death circulated around a few months later.
Right.
And at that point, the track club made a decision to enter into the conversation.
I remember that.
Ahmaud was killed while he was running.
Yeah.
And that allowed us to enter a discussion, to have a discourse that we had never had before.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, we decided to slow down, to stop moving forward, to stop pushing people to run and walk, and to sit down and have a conversation that we're now calling common ground. Mm-hmm. So with that as the starting point, my first question to you is: when you hear the word common ground, what do you think of?
Common ground. And if you don't mind me backing up a little bit, I remember, probably a couple of years ago, you and I sat at a pizza joint. We talked about how Atlanta Track Club growing and making sure that we're including everybody. Atlanta Track Club is to the Atlanta area and it serves many people. But we talked about how to make all races feel comfortable to be part of it. So when I hear the common ground, it's literally right up the organization's alley of working together with everyone. When you think about common ground, for me, it's sitting on the same platform, standing or kneeling, whatever it is, to be able to make sure that we as people understand that we want success for everybody through health and wellness.
Yeah. So sharing that same space. And so we're sitting here on the campus of Discovery High School. Yeah. And this is your first year at Discovery.
Yeah, it is.
How's it going so far?
Pretty good. I'm loving it. Get a chance to start all over, a new beginning, get a chance to build. I do like being part of programs and building stuff up. So I have a good opportunity. Coach Hall has had great conversation with me about where we want the program to grow. athletics, the whole athletics program. So we're trying to work together as a unit. All the coaching staffs, whether it's football, track, basketball, volleyball, whatever sport it is, all the coaches I've worked with, we all have the same goal to be able to be together on the same platform, elevating our students, which is also a good common ground.
Got it. So you've got a reputation, and your reputation is that you invest yourself in the lives of the student athletes that are on your team, specifically your time before you got to Discovery High School at Clarkston. Can you speak to what your vision was and is now, but maybe back then, for getting kids running, and maybe that action of getting them running meaning more than just running fast on a cross country course or running fast in a circle.
Yeah.
And about the kids that you were pulling into that program.
Yeah. Well, one thing I can say is that my style of coaching is actually what I'm a product of. I've learned how to be able to work together as a family. I've had educators, coaches invest in me, and so I only felt as an educator that's the best thing to do. Whether I'm in the classroom or coaching, my goal is to invest in these kids to be able to help them understand how to live a better life. It doesn't matter the color, but we want you guys to understand in this beautiful world that we have, things are crazy, and we want you to be able to survive with whatever's coming at you. So at Clarkston High School, got a chance to work with a whole bunch of students that were immigrants coming to Clarkston area, and got a chance to be able to teach them a little about cross country. They looked at me like I was crazy when I said cross country. They're like, dude, I just got here. I'm not ready to leave. But, let them know about what cross country was, track and field, talked about education, what that means for them, for their family. A lot of my student athletes I had at Clarkston wasn't thinking about education. So we had to introduce them that this is a way of life to help you improve your life. At the same time, I let them know just because you're educated in America doesn't mean your life is going to be better. As a minority, you have to work twice as hard to continue to try to get on a common ground with everybody. So got a chance to be able to help them understand that we believe in the system. As long as we work together, we'll be successful. And that's the same system at Discovery High School that I'm trying to teach the teams cross country, that, we as Titans, we believe that we can be successful. It may not look like that right now, but the goal is to be successful and believe in the process that we take to be able to get to the next level. Looking at for colleges, looking at how you can help your family, how to improve your character. Down 5 years down the road when you have your family, how to be a better citizen in the United States, and making sure that we're all successful.
So you're not just measuring kids' success on what their PR is, or
nah.
who they beat yesterday.
Nah, not for me. I remember you asked me a couple of years, like when I'm in the hallway, what is it that I look like to see what type of student athlete I'm looking to coach? Of course, we look at the stature, the build, and everything. But at the same time, I'm trying to figure out mentally where you're at, where's your heart, what do you want? What do you want in life? Let's go ahead and just journey together, try to be able to make it happen.
So at Clarkston and now here at Discovery, do you have conversations about race and racism with your student athletes? And how does that conversation start?
I do have the conversation. I have to say that coming to Gwinnett County, Discovery High School, I was skeptical because one thing Coach Hall told me, it's like, hey, you're coming here, you get a chance to be able to build up your brand. And another coach told me, he was like, well, whatever brand that you had is no longer, because you got to start all over. And I was, thought about the mindset of me just being me being true to who I am. I'm still talking to these kids. Coach Hall and I, we've had these conversations about diversity, what it looks like for Black and brown kids and the Caucasians in the schools, how to be able to work together. We're not only talking about in the classroom, but when they're out of the classroom, communicating with each other, what it is to be out there, what it is out there to be in this world. Had a conversation 2 weeks ago with our cross-country team. I asked them about the El Paso shooting, where, majority of our students are brown Hispanics, at Discovery. So I wanted to be able, instead of talking to them only about Black lives, I want to be able to talk to them where they can, something that they can they can relate more to. So I talked to them about El Paso, and some of them said that they were aware of it, and some of my team's members weren't aware. So we watched a little clip on it to introduce them to that and say, hey, does this sound like what we've been hearing about this summer? Black Lives Matter. They're like, yeah. So, and I told them, I said, as people of color, we have different struggles. Genders have issues also. So we're not only thinking about one race, but we're talking about the human race, how we can live together. Unfortunately, the Blacks, the Browns struggle a little bit more than the Caucasian race in America. And that's something that's needed to be heard. They felt a little bit uncomfortable because I'm the new guy. But at the same time, we were able to open up and have a little conversation on it. And it's not an easy conversation just because you want to make sure you don't step on people's toes. But at the same time, it's something that needs to be had because we're dealing with it. I would say during pre-planning, our athletic department, we put something together where we had that conversation with all the coaches to encourage them to be able to have them with the student athletes, just because we're competing with a whole lot of student athletes. Some of them look like you and some of them don't look like you. So yeah, it's needed. It's needed. I've had conversations with other coaches about it. Good and bad experiences with the conversations. I think Black and brown majority coaches understand what we're dealing with. And then you get some of the coaches that are scared. And I'm talking about Black and brown coaches that are scared to have that conversation just because they don't want to rock the boat to make sure they're causing problems. And it's, for me, as a Black Haitian American, I have to say that I am disappointed when I see those that they have a voice and they're a little bit worried about if I speak on it, I might draw a red flag.
So you're talking about other coaches of color who have concerns about having this discussion out of concern for their own standing in a coaching community or a school.
And with their student athletes.
Really?
Yeah. They're worried about how they're going to be looked at. Yeah. Then I've had other coaches I've talked to at some clinics, and I've asked them how, after the shooting, I've asked them, how are you guys going to have the conversation with your team? Some coaches said, well, coach, we really don't have that problem on our team, so we don't have to worry about that. Didn't like that answer, just because their team that they coach compete against kids that don't look like them. I think the young man from Marietta, African American, don't know too much about him, but he's one of the top runners in the state of Georgia right now. I believe he just committed to Syracuse. He doesn't look like some of those kids that they coach, but they're competing against him. We had at Archer High School, not too far from here, Miles Collins, great runner last year. He ran well at Wingfoot, but that's a conversation he also talked about as running, how he worries about, how his family worries about that. So for me to hear a coach say, well, we don't have that problem, it's disappointing because it's something, like you said, it affects the whole running community, no matter what.
That's interesting for us. So we're pushing ourselves into a conversation on social justice and trying to figure out when's the appropriate time to have that conversation with young runners, jumpers, and throwers.
Yeah.
And when's the appropriate time to have that conversation with one of our members, with one of our volunteers?
Before lunch happens. So
You good?
yeah, we're good.
So this is all about listening and learning. So I think I've already from listening learned. The coaches, some of your fellow coaches, coaches of color, struggle with having this conversation for a bunch of reasons.
Right. And not only coaches of color, but also coaches that are Caucasian of having that conversation. Yep. For me, as a Haitian American Black man, I wish all coaches would want to be able to have this conversation. So I'm probably a little bit more tougher on my Black and brown coaches of like, this is our job because we live this. We've all experienced some type of racism. And so to be coaching young student athletes, different genders, you got to have that conversation. To me, if you're trying to build up a family where they trust you and they want to buy into the system that you're trying to build to be successful, not only on the competition field, but in life, period.
Is there a venue right now for coaches to come together and have this conversation, or is that part of the problem? There's not a common ground type place to have it.
Well, I can honestly say that, late June, I had started having conversation with some other minority coaches, and we talked about, man, we gotta do more. So
do more for the coaching community or for the kids?
Coaching community to be able to help the kids. So without student athletes, coaches aren't relevant. Without coaches, student athletes aren't relevant. So that relationship is deeply needed. So just like we go to clinics to be able to learn how to be a better coach, to be able to help improve our athletes, that conversation is also needed. So the Minority Coaching Association in Georgia started with Ahmad Tinker. Him and I used to work together in South Georgia, in Columbus, Georgia. He started one for the state of Georgia. And so what I did was talk to some other coaches at McEachern, Coach Sapp, talked to Wesley coach, talked to a couple coaches, Shiloh coach at Devin Jones, talked about we need to be able to create a platform. So middle June, we started an organization, Minority Track and Field Cross Country Organization, to be able to help improve our skill as coaches, to be able to help the athlete, and at the same time improve the conversation that needs to be had. Just because when we look at Georgia High School Association, majority of the people on the board don't look like us.
Yeah.
Don't look like us. So to be able to have these conversations, to be able to improve our sport, you need to have a diverse organization. So we've talked about being involved with these other organizations, Georgia High School, Georgia Track and Field Cross Country Association that does the rules clinic with Atlanta Track Club. So we've talked to them about adding some more liaisons to be able to be there, to be able to help build a common ground. So we just started this. And we are very happy with the push that we're making. Little steps are big steps in a way, just because the conversation is there and we're understanding that we're trying to improve. It's not an easy road, but at the same time, we're going to continue pushing to do what we have to do.
So that's really interesting. So as a leader of the staff at Atlanta Track Club, I've found myself as a 50-year-old white guy feeling uncomfortable when I see minority staffers talking amongst themselves, feeling as if I have not done enough to give them a platform to speak with me or with white staffers.
Right.
Similar for minority coaches.
Correct.
But I think I've learned over these last few months is that I should embrace and I should encourage those conversations, because those are conversations amongst people that are sharing like experiences. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. And truth be told, tying it back to health and wellness, you want to be able to build a healthy conversation, because I think you create an atmosphere at the workplace where everybody's feel comfortable to be able to say, hey, Rich, this is something I'm a little bit worried about. Is there something that we can do? And I applaud you, because I remember when you put it out there on Twitter that, as a running club, you'd be remiss if you didn't say something about that. And I was very happy. And then you and I talked on the phone of what it is. It's very important, just because you're willing to put the work in as a white male in your organization to be able to listen and learn how to improve all those that are affected by what you do. And I think it's very important. And that platform that you have, the platform that Big Peach has, Mizuno has, and the reason why I say that, because these are my allies that I've communicated with you guys on different levels, and you guys understand the human race is very important, and we have to make sure that the black, browns are heard, are treated fairly. So I appreciate you doing that. And I'm glad that you have an eye to be able to notice that. Because there's a lot of people that turn a blind eye and act like that's not a problem. So let's get back to work. And that's always the worst thing, when something that is very important to me or the people that look like me, and all of a sudden, you have to hush up just because your counterparts might be like, dude, this is the workplace.
Yeah. Wait. You just used the word ally.
Yeah.
So another learning for me over these last few months is it puts me, the 50-year-old white guy, asking you, the black coach, to help me learn, put you in a difficult position. So I appreciate the fact that you're willing to have this conversation today. But back to ally. What can I do, or other white runners, sprinters, jumpers, throwers, do to be what we'll call allies, and that's a word that's been used a lot over these last couple months.
Yeah, and I look forward to them.
Conversation around racism, bias, social justice, systemic racism. Are there things that come to mind that you think could help further this conversation? So back to being an ally. What can I do? What can other white runners, non-people of color, do to be an ally in this conversation on racism?
Well, this is me speaking, Wesley Etienne now. I'm comfortable having a conversation with a white male or a white female, period, whether you're in sports or not. I'm comfortable in my skin. I know who I am. My common ground is sturdy. Some others may not feel comfortable, willing to be able to have a conversation with you, tell you, hey, Rich, this is some of the things that you might want to do. Because the reason why I say that is just because we've struggled for a long time. We struggled for a long time, and we're trying to be successful in a white society. And now some will say, now you want me to stop what I'm doing? So we'll say, hey, Rich, this is another thing that you need to do. And it's draining. For me, I've lived a lot of these experiences that, coming from Brooklyn, New York, where I had a lot of diversity people around me, moving to Florida, shocker for me. I was like, what in the world is going on here? And that was a big adjustment for me, just because in my neighborhood, my family was the only black family in 8 to 10 mile radius. So that was hard for me. But then I got a chance to be able to learn how to survive in a white neighborhood, predominantly white schools. And then I went off to Alabama State, historically black college. So I say that I've been in both worlds, learning how to be successful. And when I say successful, is that I can still move forward and not worry about that. But there's still times that I struggle with it. So getting back to it is that I would say, and my recommendation is for white people to be able to say, hey, let me do some research on where systematic racism has started. And it started a long time ago. You can go ahead and read the Willie Lynch letters of talking about how to purposely divide the families. And then see how it's progressed when they try to abolish slavery, how, everything, moving up. Because it seems like every time a black person understands what it takes to move forward, to try to find that platform, it's pulled back away from us to say, we've switched it up. So we're always reinventing ourselves to be successful and continue to move forward. But I would say, do some research of where racism came from to see how it's affected, so you can understand why some may not want to have a conversation with you. That's me. But then for me, I have no problem sitting here with you to say, hey, Rich, this is what we need to do. Let's get together and have these healthy conversations and maybe have a round discussion with a mixed crowd of coaches of what's going on. And we've seen it throughout college football professional that nowadays we see Black Lives Matter everywhere. And I won't lie. I'm happy to see it, but at the same time, I'm like, this is a fad for people. We're just going to do this just so they can show that we're doing okay. And for me, I know when you're real, you're genuine. As a Black man, I feed off energy. I know where it's safe, where it's not safe to be at. So I can see those that are open and want better and want the human race to be successful. I can see that. And I can see, okay, you're just doing this just to say, hey, this is what it is. And I can see those that are doing it just to stand up and how they're getting attacked by it. Like Big Peach, they put out there, it's like, we're standing here to be able to make sure everybody's comfortable. But a lot of people say we don't want to have anything to do with you guys anymore. It's hard to stand on a common ground sometimes.
It is.
Yeah.
So you talk to energy. You can feel the energy. You notice the energy, and that you're well traveled. Northeast, Florida, HBCU.
Yeah, I've been out the country and I love it.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
How do you see the sport here in Georgia around sort of race and racism? Is our sport better than culture at large? Are we leading the way? Are we trailing?
Well, let me say this. For track and field, we're completely diverse. And some would say majority are black and brown kids. And the minorities would be the Caucasian kids. But then for me, I think we're diverse, which is great because I believe when we get to heaven, we're all going to be diverse anyway. So for track and field, we're there. I think where we have the problem is on the coaches. On the coaches choosing to turn a blind eye of what's going on, where we need to step it up. We need to step it up. Cross country, for me, it was completely different. At Clarkston High School, our student athletes, the first 2 years were predominantly black, and not only black, but coming from another country. So the immigrant status and black, learning how to speak English was a struggle for them. So going to some races, and I'll never forget, at Aubrey Gunderson, we were there and a principal came and asked me, so are your kids eligible? Yeah, we go through the same thing that Georgia high school student athletes go through. The same criteria, nothing's different. Why wouldn't they be eligible? That was a smack to my face. And if they would have caught me 10 years ago, it would have went a whole different way and everything. But I've learned how to adjust to the situation and tell them, get out of my face with that crap. Yeah. And I've turned to my coaches. They're like, Coach, I can't believe we just heard that. Why not? We've been living in America all our lives. This ain't the first time it's popped up. That's not surprising to me. I'm accustomed to it. That stuff doesn't surprise me anymore just because 44 years old, living in America, I've seen a lot. I've been pulled over. I've been treated wrong in the class. I've gone through it. I've gone through it where someone has called me the N-word and I retaliated, punched them in the face, and they came to me and said, Wesley, you can't do that. Okay, I got you. But are we going to have a conversation with him? No. So I've experienced it on all levels. So when I hear something like that, I know how to deal with it. And if we're not in the professional world, I have some other few choice words.
So when you were at Clarkston then, and you're growing a program, and the kids are starting to stand out as student athletes,
right,
not as black kids or immigrants in a largely white sport here in Georgia.
Right. For cross country.
For cross country.
Yeah.
How are you show up at a meet? How are those kids perceived by everyone else? Are they scared? Are they embraced? Do the kids feel isolated?
Well, it's funny that you asked that, because for me, when we pull up to a meet, my main focus is that my kids are comfortable. I'm not worried about what the white kids are worried about. I want my kids to be comfortable, to be able to do their best. Because at the end of the day, that's something that they always need to be protected. You know, so at the end of it, when it comes down, they've seen us a couple times. Okay, Clarkson all black team pulling up. We know who they are. Then when we start getting some success, the target's bigger than that. Okay, it's like, okay, well, who are those black kids? Now, okay, they've got some success. One state championship, won a second championship, a third one. Good God Almighty, you know, some might have said our sport is gone. We no longer have our sport, our white sport. But some of the white kids have, and I've appreciated this a lot, have come and had these conversations like, Coach, I love seeing you guys come out and compete. Those kids aren't looking at race. They're looking at a student athlete busting their butt. They clearly don't see when they're practicing just like I am. They're doing the best that they can. And I've also had student athletes come and say, Coach, it's a joy to be able to see your team run, whether you guys run a good race or a bad race, just because at our school, we talk bad about your team. And I'm like, wow. And to hear them say, I hope you beat our team. And I remember Coach Hester, I'm like, dude, this was a eerie type of conversation to have, where another team is coming to us saying, Coach, I hope you put it to us today. And it's like, wow. Why? Because they feel uncomfortable on their team, on their diverse team, where they're segregated.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
So as we start to wrap up the conversation, so you gave me some advice on educating myself and other white leaders educating themselves and not relying on their black friends to tell them how to do things.
Right.
From a track club perspective, we're not a white organization. We're not a black organization. We're pretty diverse from a membership perspective. Right. But we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Mm-hmm. What is there anything that you think that we should be doing that we're not doing now?
I believe you guys are in the right direction, and you know, whenever it comes to change, you know, small things go a long way. Some people on the outside looking in will say, "What the hell? You know, what's going on here?" But as for me, as invested as I am into educating my student athletes and my peers, my coworkers that I work with, and my allies, I think that reaching out to more black and brown coaches, say, "Hey, Coach, is there anything that we can do to be able to help you feel comfortable and your value of what you do, like the white coaches, is equal? Is there something that you're lacking that we can help out?" You and I have talked about some other stuff that I think that would help the whole Atlanta Metro in improving, like, you know, we talked about pole vaulting. Pole vaulting is an event that is predominantly white. And I think if we get a chance to partner up on that, to go through different, set up a couple of sites where we can help promote that. I think that small thing right there goes a long way of opening up, where people are like, man, it's not a conversation, but they're showing us how they want us to be on a common ground.
Do you see a day in your coaching life and in my life here at Atlanta Track Club where we won't need to have this conversation? Honestly.
No, I would love to have that day. But the question is, do I see it? Just like when President Barack Obama became president, I didn't think I would ever see that in my lifetime. And when President Barack Obama became president, that was a hard task for him as a black man to stand the leader of a free world. No matter what he did, he was getting scrutinized. Some would say he didn't do enough. Well, he could only do so much that they allowed him to do. So will I see a better world? If we continue to have these conversations, we'll be in a better place.
Yep.
We'll be in a better place. Because we're coming over 300 plus years of slavery, and it's still systematically affecting us. It's not an easy job to be able to negate, but I think more allies need to be there to be able to help us feel we're on a common ground.
So obviously we can't, you and I,
Right.
Discovery High School, Atlanta Track Club, can't change the narrative of a national political discourse. But we can work to make sure that the sport itself is having, or maybe leading, healthy conversations in this area.
Yeah.
So to wrap up, a few years down the road, 5 years down the road, we're talking about the success of Discovery High School on the field of play, cross country and track and field. What do you want that to look like?
Our student athletes and students, well, as a whole, Discovery High School, understanding that just because you're a new school doesn't mean that you have to use that crutch like these other programs that are well established. They've had great tradition. Doesn't mean you can't do that. There are opportunities to say, look what we did since 2015. We've helped build it up, put us on another level. We've improved our graduation rate. We've improved the students attending college or joining the military force or vocational. Understanding what it is to be a great citizen in America, but at the same time understanding that they're welcome to be who they are. Black, brown, white, living together. And we did it at Discovery to be able to be part of the leadership of understanding how to be better.
So to bring it full circle, you're killing it. You're winning state championships. You've got
we haven't done it yet. We're working here.
Yeah, but you're going to have standout athletes.
Yeah.
But more importantly, standout people.
Oh yeah.
Use the sport to develop the true American citizen. I'm putting words in your mouth.
No. I want you to be the best human being. The best human being, period. Wherever you're at. But of course, we're in America. So with us being in America, I want them to see when you walk to the Publix, you walk to the gas station, you go to the mall, I want them to see you're oozing success and you holding your head pride and you feel great to be a person that's contributed more value to America and making the community feel better, safe, and happy to have any type of conversation.
So I've got one last question, and this is kind of out of order. But yesterday, you had referenced that you've been stopped by police, and have your own experience there.
Yeah.
And there have been over the last few months some really ugly, scary incidents from Ahmaud Arbery, before the police even arrived, to George Floyd. In Florida, I was over the weekend that I saw this, but in Florida, middle-aged black man running down the street, on a run, clearly on a run, gets stopped by police. Thankfully, this by today's standard was a success.
Today's standard.
By today's standards, it was a success. But this guy running down the street finds himself in handcuffs because he looks like a burglary suspect. And he handles himself just like he has to stay alive.
To stay alive.
And reading the news report on it, they talk about how great this interaction was with the police and this gentleman. And I couldn't help but just be so frustrated looking at that and saying, this guy ended up in handcuffs with 7 police cars along the curb, in his own neighborhood, and this is going to be a scar that this guy carries for the rest of his life because he looked like somebody else. So I'm getting to sort of the question here,
and if you don't mind me saying something, but society felt like it was a success. Kind of hard to be on a common ground if that's what looks success.
Yeah.
That you survived the day.
And that's where I was going to go. Is it if that was me running down the street and I looked like the burglary suspect a few blocks away, as they vetted whether I was that suspect, would I have been put in handcuffs?
No. And the reason why I say that, just because I've seen it happen when I was at Florida State, where if I'm at a party and it's black, brown, partying, something happens, cuffs come on. If I go on the other side and I'm partying and I'm with a diverse crowd, I've seen zip ties come out. I'm like, oh, wow, zip ties. Calm down. Clip the zip ties, go on. On the other side, handcuffs. You're going to go to the precinct, get fingerprinted. Oh, made a mistake? Okay, you can leave now. I've seen that happen. My wife, there's times if I don't get a chance to go for a run and I want to be able to do it at night, anytime after 7, my wife hates it. She doesn't like it at all. And I understand, but I got to run. I'm trying to lose this gut right here. I got to do that. She'll call me. Hey, I said, I'm fine. I'm on the way home and everything. You've been out too long. Should my wife have to do that? Should my wife have to be fearful that I want to work out? No. So, and I didn't know about that story. So I'm happy that it wasn't tragedy, but unfortunately that scar is going to be there. Now, and he has a family. He has to go home and explain that to his family. What happened? How do you, quote, quote, sugarcoat that I'm okay? That's hard.
So we started a conversation on Ahmaud Arbery running, tragically killed. We end with, this is the progress that we're making. So we can see how much further we have to go.
Yes.
And I hope that we as a sport can continue to lead in this conversation. And I thank you for taking the time today. I thank you for being comfortable having this conversation with me. And best wishes for success here at Discovery High School.
Rich, I appreciate you reaching out to me so we could continue having these conversations and putting this on a platform so everybody can hear powerful minds that are allies that want more for not only our sport, but for the world. And I am blessed that our principal, Miss Sledge, Marcy Sledge, has brought me along Coach Hall to be able to help grow. I love what I was doing at Clarkston, but I'm happy that I get a chance to come to Discovery High School and add more cultivating success stories to help us grow. And thank you for being part of it.
Yeah, we look forward to following your success here.
Okay. Thank you, brother.
Yep.
I appreciate everything that you do and continue to do, brother.